Hi, how is everyone doing today? It looks like we're streaming, so we can go ahead and get started. So it is 4:46. I'm going to go ahead and call the Howard Go Team meeting to order. You can find the agenda online, and it's been emailed to the members. It also appears on our website. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team, and only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe, and you can sign up for public comment, which we have at the beginning and at the end of the meeting if you would like to do so. That information should be available to click on how to sign up on that Google form. So the first order of business is to take roll. Ms. Patel, would you be willing to help us out with that?
Of course. Miss Hollis, Mr. Brooks,
I'm here.
Miss Eldery,
Present.
Mr. Griggs,
Here.
Dr. Bryant,
Present.
Miss Nolan,
I am here.
Mr. Langdon,
Present.
Mr. Baker, Miss Reiner.
Here.
Thank you. And it appears we have quorum with that attendance. I appreciate it. So the first order of business is to approve the agenda as it's been sent to you guys. Are there any suggestions for any edits, additions, taking away of any item? I don't see anyone's hands up. Okay, so we will take a motion for the agenda.
I motion that we approve the agenda.
All right, a motion from Ms. Nolan, and then I'll take a second.
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Griggs. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. I see Ms. Bryant, Mr. Langbein, Mr. Griggs, Ms. Patel, Ms. Reiner in favor, and Mr. Brooks. Perfect. Any opposed? I believe everyone voted in favor. And any abstentions? No. So it looks like it's unanimous. The next vote is for the meeting minutes, and Ms. Patel sent those. Are there any edits that anybody would like? Additions, deletions? I did not receive any. So I will take a motion for the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Griggs. And I would need a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Ms. Nolan. All those in favor, you can raise your hand or say aye. I see Mr. Griggs, Ms. Nolan, myself, Ms. Patel, Langbein, Bryant, Reiner, Brooks. Great. Any opposed? Which I think it's everyone that voted in favor, and any abstentions. I don't see any either, and that was unanimous of those people who are here. Are there any public comments?
No.
Fabulous. So we'll go to the first item, which is the discussion with the budget. Principal Hollis, if you want to go over that.
Sure. And I was trying to find mute, so I apologize for not being able to say present. We are in the feedback meeting part 2, with the next step afterwards being the review for staffing conference, review with the associate superintendent, review for staffing conferences, and then our finalization meeting. Since we met, there was a stakeholder engagement event on 2/10. We had about 30 people in attendance. About 8 of those people were parents. We looked at the house and the things that the district uses as input for the family engagement survey. What we heard was there was communication gaps or needs for between teachers and families, more consistency in that space, more consistency with how Schoology is used. The shift in the website caused some issues with communication. some of the pages that were present. For example, the Who to Call directory was not present when we converted, and that has been handled. And then needing more support with the transition from elementary to middle school. And these things align to the strategic objectives listed below. There were a couple of the Go Team parents that were present. In case I can pause there to see if they want to add any additional, and teacher that was present. If there was any overarching ideas that were missed in this space that could add value as it relates to the strategic objectives that we have listed here.
My meaning making from the time and just observing the engagement was pretty similar to what you have here. I think the two things I would pull out was this idea of like intensive support as you bridge into middle school and having like the on time information. I think maybe you made that point, or maybe the person from the central district did, about like they may get parents may get things like at the end of July or beginning of August, but if it's about something that's happening in October, it's like not in memory anymore. So thinking about how those engagements line up to being on time. And I think there's something about another theme that I heard, like parents simultaneously don't want to bother teachers and at times want to engage with a human being. And so I think there's like a little bit of a challenge related to that, right? Like they don't want to bother the principal and have the principal have 1,200 people contacting her. They also don't want to bother the teachers. And so there's a little bit of a like, and part of that is just adjusting from coming to elementary school where there was one teacher that they could like build a relationship with. But that was another noticing. Those are my two big thoughts, which I think mostly align with what's on the slide, but maybe a little bit of a remix.
Thank you for that.
Su-
I-
could
mm,
should we see if the teachers want to, Sudi and Miss Bryant? I think you were there, Dr. Bryant. Did you guys want to add anything? And then I'll add some stuff too from my perspective.
Not from my perspective, I don't need to, a lot of things were addressed. I don't have anything to add at this time.
Thank you for being able to attend. Appreciate it.
I don't have that much more to add. I mean, I think it was helpful in establishing that I think that there's some communication differences, and I took a page of notes on it too. Just that I think there are some best practices that we can implement moving forwards.
Thank you, Miss Nolan. And then what I took from there too, Josh, thanks for calling out the transition that middle school is from elementary, to high, and having that wiggle room and learning that communication will be different as children grow, and how that might need to look different in 6th grade versus 8th grade as you transfer into a new school and a larger school. I also heard the just wanting to, what I would call, as Josh, you spoke to, the wanting to establish rapport and connection with the teachers, but not wanting to bother them, to your point, because they are very busy, but they are wanting to establish rapport and feel warm and welcome. Sudi and I were invited on Friday to the FELT meeting, which also spoke about this. And we were able to provide you guys with the full presentation from Wednesday night if you weren't able to attend. So I sent that to the email, and Ms. Patel, if you can include those in our meeting minutes, I would appreciate it. And then from a FELT standpoint, we were able to look at the comments. There were the open response comments. So the other item was, again, that wanting to feel warm and welcome when coming to the school with a concern or an email. Also, there was comments around safety and being proactive with communication.
So the themes from the requests that I received in the last meeting are listed here. When we're looking at the buckets, there will be around data-driven instruction, intervention, and enrichment. These things were mentioned in our last meeting, and when requested for what information is needed in order to help move this draft budget to vote, these are the themes that were lifted. So, like I said, the data-driven instruction, intervention, and enrichment, student access, class sizes, and instructional equity.
Just so
And
I want to confirm I'm understanding Principal Hollis here. Team refers to this team. Is that right? The Go team?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. And if I'm mistaken, let me know. The pieces around data-driven instruction were about the resource alignment with intervention and enrichment. With the class sizes, there were questions around the number of students that's in the classes and whether or not we will achieve those outcomes based on the staffing proposal that was listed. Engagement, the two-way communication and inclusive school culture was a theme. Wanting to have that family engagement opportunity that we spoke about in the last slide, and how we're utilizing those resources to meet the community needs. Safety, PBIS, and SEL, student well-being was another theme where we were talking about whether or not we have SROs and safety guards, security guards, and things of that nature, and whether those things were addressed in the proposed draft budget, and how we will continue to implement things around SEL and PBIS. So here are the class sizes that were calculated and emailed out. And from a budgeting perspective, they are looking at class sizes of 30 students. And as you can see, regardless of what type of class it is, our class sizes are consistently below 30. And class sizes in our on-grade level classes, I said that we keep those at around 25. Really, they're more around 23, 22, depending on the course. And then the gifted class numbers, as you can see there, depending on the course, they are well below what I suggested they would be. The exceptions are, or the largest are 6th grade math and 8th grade social studies and science at 27 students. So going back to our strategic plan, this is our strategic plan that we approved. And last week we talked about how did I interpret what the strategic objectives were. So I'm not going to go through that. What I did do was change how you see the usage of the resources so that it could be related to the strategic objectives, because when we're voting on the draft budget, it is whether or not I'm aligning the use of funds to match the strategic objectives. So as you can see, the first objective, we're looking at the reading intervention classes, the enrichment classes, gifted classes, having all the materials. I will say when things are kind of duplicated, so you can't just add these up and get to the budgeted amount. There are some things that relate to multiple buckets, and so that I put them in multiple buckets for complete transparency. But you can see most of it is the supplies and the teachers themselves in the first bucket. The second ranked strategic objective is around the use of data to drive instructional practices. Again, it was proposed to hire instructional coaches. I apologize for that being twice. And then the teachers making sure they have the certifications needed. The third ranked strategic objective was around that safe, positive, informed, and engaged school culture. And that's where the security guards, the SROs, the resource officer, the residency officer, I'm sorry, the custodial staff, a difference in what was proposed before and what we have now is the addition of not just a communication liaison, but also moving the parent liaison, which both will be part-time positions, from that being something we purchase after leveling to before leveling. And the only reason why that was able to be done is we had a lot of funds pushed into substitutes that were hold tight. And when myself and budget team looked at it, that was far beyond the scope of the numbers that were needed when we compare it to the past couple of years for substitute requests. And so we decreased the sub allotment to give the opportunity to add the part-time parent liaison now versus later. The fourth piece is consistent two-way communication with stakeholders. And you can see there the things that go into there, the subs, the non-instructional aid that we're proposing for testing room, pull out small group testing rooms. The fifth ranked one was create an environment that motivates and retains staff members, and the recommendations are there. The supplies, having the communications liaison to assist with creating communications that go to families, and having that parent liaison, security officers, counselors, social worker, nurse, the addition of the part-time, and having the flexible funds to have the SST 504 specialists that we currently have. Number 6 was to build teacher capacity and opportunities. So there we have the travel, the teachers that help with the specialized populations, the stipends for pre-planning, post-planning, teacher leader roles and such, and the substitutes to be able to cover the classes when we are building capacity outside the building. Number 7, to expand opportunities to advance content courses for at least 5% of non-gifted identified students. Having our specialized teachers and software. The STEAM field trips I felt would be appropriate in that space as well. Lab materials that we give an opportunity for teachers to purchase to make sure that we have hands-on lab experiences in science. Number 8, continuing with the same, our connections teachers help to bring that A out in STEAM, and the other things are kind of self-explanatory in that space. Number 9, continuing our implementation of PBIS and SEL programming. So having a safe environment, having the counselors, the social worker, all the people there to help create engagement. That is what's budgeted in that space. Number 10 was about increasing diversity of families who engage with the school through various activities, and we were looking more so at the part-time communication and parent liaison personnel to help in that space, and the people who make up the front office and the registrar and all the people that interact with families. So as we went over last time, our proposed staffing is listed there. There is rationale on that school flexibility on the second page, which allows us to adhere to the additional programming that we were able to gain, which was dealing with the school flexibility space to add the registrar and add the communications liaison and parent liaison, adding the SST intervention person, 1 full-time, and then the hourly person, which you'll see in the future on the hourly tab. For our non-staffing proposal, materials and supplies, this did not change from last time. Remember, we have a reserves holdback for $225,620. Trying to ensure that we build in the dollars for STEAM programming, and they are listed there. And on this page, the call out is really about the teacher sub allocation. If you compared it to the previous draft, we had about 44,000 that was required by the district that I was able to get down to 440 overage, which is not me adding to, that's still the required amount. So I'm not sure why it's tabbing it in that way. Maintaining that full-time permanent sub. And on here, you can see the hourly teachers, you see the hourly SST 504 person, and you see the hourly security guards. We are still using 77% of our budget for direct instruction, meaning teachers. If you look at that, that ends up being 97.25 people. 12 million of the 16 million is spent on instruction teachers. And that means we're spending 10,000, about 10,000 of the 13,000 per pupil allocation on teachers. The reserves, because we moved the parent liaison, I did move a couple of things around in this space. In order to make that happen before, I also decreased the amount that we were funding for supplies up front. So if we meet our allocations, then we'll get the rest of the supply money from making our numbers. Any educational software that we may see a need for, adding an additional hourly security guard and an additional permanent sub to go back to 2, which was what we had 2 years ago. And building, the monies for travel for building capacity for teachers and trying to utilize the exterior space differently. So I'll open the floor up for questions. The questions really should be more related to if you see that there is a gap in where the strategic objectives are and how I have aligned the budget before we open up for questions. And based on the ask of Mr. Norvell, who's the chief, to put the questions that we have listed or that were asked that I have answered in the slide deck as an appendix. I have added these questions, and so I will update that presentation that's on the website. The questions, sorry, I had to admit somebody in. The questions were around positions, getting job descriptions, which all were provided that were asked for. The communication liaison and their space and how it will be impacted. How does it impact using those dollars towards instruction? Questions here on this page were about baseline funding and not hiring the numbers that were requested for that baseline funding. And essentially, just to remind people, the budget is the budget, and these flexibility space, we have to use our strategic flexibility in order to staff, as we have in previous years, the positions that are not funded by the district, which some examples there are the MTSS 504 specialists, our security guards, our registrar, our business manager, and such. Question 6 was around the class sizes, and I spoke on that earlier. 7 was dealing with, again, questions about safety, the registrar, what that position is. Question 9 is about esports being a club sport. Esports is really not a club sport, is really an APS club sport, if you want to call it that. It's really a club. And so there are dollars allocated to that said stipend if your school chooses to participate in the esports competition, because they're done and scheduled by APS. PTO has nothing to do with it. Reading Plus is what we use in the reading intervention classes, and we have used that for at least 3 years, probably before then. In the high school space, it has been used since 2012, except for the years where we used HMH as the reading intervention curriculum. And then again, about the staffing and job descriptions. So again, I'm going to open the floor for any questions or discussions that need to be had as it relates to whether or not we have utilized the funds to meet the strategic objectives as they were prioritized.
Are there any questions regarding the follow-up on the budget, change with parent liaison or anything? I believe that's the only change from last time. Is that correct?
Not exactly. I did decrease the dollars being reserved for substitutes. I decreased the amount of supplies being given prior to leveling, increased the parent liaison and communication liaison to be a 0.6 FTE versus hourly. Those are the only changes that I can think of off the top of my head.
So that parent liaison communication person will be one person with a 0.6 or two at 0.6?
2 at 0.6.
Okay. So a little over 1 FTE. Okay.
I
And then,
don't have questions, which is why I'm staying quiet. I just have affirmations. So I just wanted to, I found the strategic use of resources slides and the responses to questions both very helpful to review in advance of this call. So I just want to affirm that from a process perspective. And then from a substance perspective, I really, really appreciate that you dug in one more time and looked at the data around substitute utilization and dialed that down in order to bring the parent liaison investment both slightly larger and more certain and earlier. I think that's a really, really great decision. So those are my affirmations. It seems like there's a question around instructional choice or instructional coach versus master teacher leader that you engaged in and answered. I have no expertise about which of those is better. And so I'm just noting that historically we went with master teacher leader. Now we're going with instructional coach. I'm going to defer to your expertise. That seems to make sense to me. The thing I would just say is like, it will probably be helpful to make note of why we think instructional coaches are going to be a better investment than master teacher leaders, and just confirm, 18 months down the road, 24 months down the road, if that played out the way that we thought it would. But I think all in all, both process and substance, this looks really great to me.
So thank you for noting that. I will say, and I'll go back to the slide where the allocations were given. This is the first year that the district actually allocated instructional coaches. If you look about halfway down this slide, you'll see instructional coach 211 day. They allocated 2, and I staffed 2 based on their recommendation.
And Ms. Nolan and Dr. Bryant, Mr. Langbein, were you guys able to get any feedback from any of the teachers or engagements, or did they find that useful that they were allowed to give engagement or have anything to share? I know it was short notice before a holiday.
I didn't get a chance to meet with anyone concerning this.
I would say I also did not have any staff feedback on this.
Mhm.
I agree. That's the case for me as well.
So, Hina, if you could also include all the items that were mailed to us, we got different job descriptions and different resources. If you could make sure those are all in the meeting minutes for the public as well, that would be great, because I think this alludes to it. And then a personal ask that I have, which could be considered for a future budget, is to see the Reading Plus data for our students. I think that would be great to see. You said that's been around for some time. I don't know if there's, we've never seen data at that I've been around at Howard. So I would love to see some data on the intervention personally. So I'm going to propose that that's on a future agenda. I don't know what your next slides are, since this is a different presentation than we received.
I have a question, Ms. Hollis.
This is the presentation that was sent out on Friday. I'm sorry, Dr. Bryant, continue.
That's okay. In terms of a master teacher, the instructional coach, we are going with instructional coach based upon the direction of the district. Am I correct?
That is correct. That's what
Okay.
they proposed to be staff. It is flexible, but This is the first year that they actually proposed it in the middle school space for us. Traditionally, we had to use our flexibility to buy any of those positions, and
Mhm.
they actually are allocating it this year.
You
If I
know,
remember it correctly from our previous conversation, we're going to be able to have like a reading instructional coach or an ELA instructional coach for each grade.
No,
No.
there'll be one ELA coach and one math coach.
so it's just two.
Okay.
Correct.
What was the thing that we're moving from 2 people to 3 people and be able to have one in each grade?
That's the teacher.
If
The reading.
Oh, like an
intervention
interventionist.
teacher. Mhm.
Okay.
They're
got
not. They're just a teacher, not an interventionist.
it. Okay.
The reading
teacher.
support class. Yes.
Sorry.
And
Miss-
that's an hourly position, correct? Where you said they would have one section, only one section for each grade?
Yes.
my
Dr.
concern.
Bryan, you had your hand up.
Yes,
sorry.
yes, ma'am. Pooh. Let me try to get my lights on. My question is basically looking at future, for the next year. If we had a teacher that was out for some reason, illness, family, whatever, servicing those classes with I guess a long-term service, which we were gonna have to use instead of something like a master teacher. Do you really feel that's really feasible, given when we are trying to really hone in on bridging gaps, as well as increasing our test scores? Since we will have to use a long-term sub and for those positions, if those things occurred next year.
So we've always used a long-term sub for FMLA absences purposes. And regardless of whether we have master teacher leaders or instructional coaches, we have to make a plan to ensure that the students are still getting instruction, because they still have to take the test at the end of the year. So that would be a management decision as to how to approach that.
Okay.
Mhm.
That was my concern with that, because I don't want us to fall down on anything.
Trust me, every year I've been here, we've had at least 3 people that have gone out on FMLA per year, and we have still maintained our data.
Do we have any other questions from anyone?
I guess I have one question about follow-up, and it was really, Deanne, I think you were going to follow up. I was curious if the district said anything or you understood any more about the overtime for the custodians or anyone else who needs to be on at the school if the school has a community event.
So several of us, I know Midtown had a meeting, their chair and Tamara, because Jennifer, the vice chair, couldn't make it, had a meeting with Dr. Bracken. I also sent our questions in. She said that they're still discussing that at the district level. I sent the athletic stipends to see if those were going to be the same for middle school, because those can change every year. I also sent in the question about field trips to see if that was going to change. So I can forward the response, but the response is that school resource allocation pamphlet that we all got the link to, and we can add that in the meeting minutes. That is how the allocation is sent. I did get confirmation that the Board of Education did not vote on these allocations, these school allocations. So they do not, the Board of Education does not vote on these allocations. They have not voted on these allocations. They will vote on the larger district budget in May, June. And then I think that's all of the questions that were proposed. So there are several of us across the district that have been very vocal about the concerns with the engagement fees, and we will continue to do that as parents and bring back anything to you. I think Principal Hollis is that your custodian overtime line and your school resource officer overtime line where you're putting those dollars
Yeah,
to budgeting?
this was on the last one. They gave us what they recommended, as you see, and this was not there last year, so it was an addition this year. And so I did allocate what they recommended, so that we did have coverage for these things. In the past, when they did make us pay a couple times, I used the security grant to pay for that. So it has not impacted the general funds that's been given for instruction in the past. But since the safety and security grant from the state is staying at the district level, I'm just trying to make plans for the funds that we've been allocated.
We did get a little bit more clarity around some dollar amounts, and they're starting just to understand that it's very challenging for the principals to budget for this if one SRO is paid at a higher rate than another and whatnot. So we will continue to advocate for some of these things so that we can get more support for them. Additionally, from a conversation that was had, they did confirm that no additional funds were given per student for engagement. So these fees were added on top of the budget for a school, but there is not a dollar amount given per student at a school like it is for some of the items that live in the formula for SSF. So those are the follow-up questions that we had for those items. Does that answer all your questions, Jenny?
Yep, and I appreciate you working on that.
Appreciate the team that went to the district. I remember last time when we looked at this and had the conversation, there was this recognition that I think Principal Hollis, you said that you felt like the longer that you went without an approval, your hands would be tied. And staffing conference is happening, I think, this week.
There in a couple days.
Yeah. So given that and the where we are in the timing, I know we don't have a lot of time this evening. I feel like the additional information, the questions that have been answered, the shifts that have been made, I feel comfortable at this point proposing that we approve this budget so that we can make sure that you have what you need, Principal Hollis, for this week. So assuming that there's no further discussion,
I wanted to echo your comments and just thank everybody for their time and the contributions that they've made. I feel pretty confident too that the proposal we have here is a good match for our strategic objectives. I motion that we a motion for a vote on this draft budget.
Do you want to clarify your motion to vote? You're motioning to vote to
approve.
Take a vote of the budget.
So I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll second.
So Mr. Langbein, you're motioning to approve the budget, and Josh, you're motioning to second the approval of the budget. And is there any discussion on that item?
I just wanted to bring a little bit more clarity to something that you raised before they started talking. The athletic stipends are not included in the school-based budget. They're going to be included at the district level budget. So I would not know whether or not the stipend amounts increased or decreased with athletics specifically. And this will be the first time since I've been in administration that has been the case.
Thank you.
And as soon as we get those, if I get them or if Principal Hollis does, because there is a stipend sheet, and usually you can publicly find it, we'll share that with the Go team as well. And hopefully that'll be available soon. They said they're finalizing that stuff along with the other parts of the budget. All right, so we'll go ahead. The motion on the table is to approve the budget as we see today. If I can get all those in favor. I see Miss Patel, Mr. Griggs, Mr. Langbein, Miss Bryant, Miss Nolan, Miss Reiner, and myself. Mr. Brooks, are you?
I say yes.
Fabulous. And so that is, anyone against the budget? I think that's actually unanimous. And any of those abstentions? Nope. So that is unanimous, budget passing.
Thank
Great.
you. And thank you for validating and stamping the many days of work put into get this to where it is now. And then what comes next is me meeting with my associate superintendent, Mr. Douglas, and then staffing conferences on Thursday. And then we will come back to our meeting on March 13th. They have to be done by March 13th. Ours is March 9th at 4:45 in person, if I'm not mistaken. This is from last time because I didn't get to go over it. I'm not sure if the data has changed. If it did, it wasn't by much. The current enrollment is around 1192, which it has been sitting in that space for a while. Our current CCRPI attendance is at 90.4. And as far as behavioral things, as you can see at the bottom, the cell phone usage is our number one infraction, but for it to be like 50 days left in the school year, and this is whether or not it's the first, second, or third infraction, us to only have 186. I am very happy with that. I do think that I like the fact that we can document it in this way to answer some of those community questions as it relates to cell phones. And then you can see where these are the top 5 infractions. Want to say great job to our students. We're having our Beta Club induction tomorrow. A lot of 6th graders being inducted because it's only for 6th grade because they now have middle school transcript.
Miss Hollis,
I'm
I
sorry.
believe it's actually I think it's on the Thursday, the 26th. I
And
just
you
wanna-
are one of the sponsors, so I'm going to
Okay.
go with what you're saying.
Yeah, just want to, yeah, at 26th, this Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will change that. And we're having the Black History program that will be this week as well. And let's see, STEAM fair or a science fair. Our technology fair winners are there. That was the district technology fair winners. As you can see, we have multiple first place winners and a third place winner based on the different domains. And then our Metro Science Fair winners are listed there with the students that are going to go on to represent us in the state level. So kudos to the teachers that helped them, the students that completed the projects. We have 3 that are going on to the state. And that's the GSEF that you see there. Want to remind people that declarations to join the Go Team is now open. It closes on Friday or Saturday. We have vacant currently Going into next year, 2 parent guardian seats and 2 instructional staff seats, and the declarations on every website that you go to for APS, it pops up. If you need the QR code, it is listed there. Again, the appendix is just the questions that we went over earlier. I have no further things to report.
So I'll just add the Midtown the cluster advisory teams haven't met again yet. We're going to meet, I believe, next week. They rescheduled the meeting. And then you should have gotten in your email from the district. I forget what it's called. Principal Halls, do you remember? It's like Accelerate Academics. There's some engagement activities across the district.
The superintendent, it is called Accelerate APS, I think. And that's with the superintendent, like he did at the beginning of the year, going around to different places in the closer clusters to talk about his plan for moving us forward.
And within that is let's see, literacy, that's called out, college and career readiness, eSPLOS, and exceptional education. So working off the FMP, the next step they said in the spring was January through March, I believe, was the eSPLOS conversation, which some of the FMP stuff hinges on, and that needs to be voted on this year. So I expect that this is going to be the start of that engagement that we were waiting to hear about. So we can add the flyer, we can add that to the meeting minutes, because there's different dates. I believe tomorrow night is the first one at Mays, but there is one, I think in our cluster, it's going to be at the rec center, the Martin Luther King Rec Center. I forget what the date is on that one, but I think the one that's in our cluster is at the MLK Rec Center. And it's coming up. I can drop that on the Facebook pages too, and maybe we can try to get that in the newsletter.
We've been putting it out through Remind to parents as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, I saw that on those channels too. I just wanted to call that out tonight. And I think that's it. So yes, I did check. That meeting date was the right date. It's the 9th at 4:45. And it does say that we're going to have public comment. And I don't know if that is in person or virtual, but I can look back on the first agenda and double check on that. And we'll include that.
I think it's in person.
And we always have a virtual component too. So if you're not able to make it, you can always pop on the Zoom. All right. I think that's it for tonight. Thank you all for your time. And looks like we hit that 48 minutes. It is 5:38. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any public comments? I know we say we'll have public comment at the beginning and the end. Did you get any?
No.
No. Diane, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to remind all the Go Team members that on Wednesday night, we're having one of our G3 conversations. This is optional, but this is our annual legislative one. Where Erica Long is our representative up at the district's representative up at the Capitol. And so on Wednesday night, we're having a virtual session to talk about what's been going on under the Capitol. And then on Friday, March 6th, which is crossover day, just to let y'all know, legislature sets crossover day. We don't, but that's the immersive event. And we know that on crossover day, they usually go later into the evening. So so if you want to go in person and advocate and talk to representatives, you can do that. You will be getting another reminder to register if you want to join us virtually on Wednesday or on Friday, March 6th. So thank you so much.
Perfect.
Thanks
So
all.
you said there's no public comment? No. Okay, perfect. So I will take a motion to conclude the meeting.
Done.
To adjourn.
And that we
Thank you.
adjourn.
Ms. Nolan, a second.
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Griggs. All those in favor say aye. I see
Aye.
Mr. Griggs, Ms. Reiner, Ms. Nolan, Ms. Bryant, Langbeen, Patel, myself. That is unanimous. Thank you all and have a good evening. It's 5:40.
Thank you.
Thank you.